Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Explained series. It has been a long time coming. I've been away for quite a bit, and as you can tell, I'm in a particularly different space now. So if you did want to know why I've been absent for so long, I actually started going back to university in person. So I moved back to the city where I attend university. So that's where I've been. I've just been in my studies. In the library, which is very crowded, and I'm always sweaty because I have my mask on, and it's always so hot in there, and it kind of sucks. I didn't have Wi-Fi for like 2 weeks, so now I have internet, and now I can make videos. It's great. Count your blessings. My blessing is stable internet. Also, really quick, we hit 20,000 subscribers. That is insane. What? Pretty awesome, so thank you so much. It actually means so much. But yeah, just thank you guys for the continued support. Let me stop babbling and let's get into the video. Yeah, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at an animation video series titled The Operator. So The Operator is a stop motion animation series that has been going on for around 7 years. The first episode was released in 2013, and just to put that into a little bit of perspective, Little Wowman was in 7th grade in 2013. So I was growing that little mustache, experiencing having life with a mustache for the very first time. My point is that this series has been in production for a very long time. So there are a total of 3 episodes in this series. 1 releasing 7 years ago, episode 2 releasing 4 years ago, and the most recent episode released 1 month ago. So we're witnessing history here. So in the first episode we are introduced to our protagonist, Bob. So Bob works at a company called InfoCorp. And upon entering his workspace, the audience is shown how mundane and meaningless his tasks really are. Bob's job consists of tightening certain knobs and moving rods to different areas, which are identified by the letter and number categorization. That's when the voice on the intercom states that the company will be implementing something called the Rhizomech system that is expected to raise efficiency by 8%.
Today we will finally activate the Rhizomech system, which will increase efficiency by as much as 8%.
So Bob continues to do his work, but is interrupted by what looks like a blood-red glob pouring out of one of the sockets. However, out of fear of losing his job, he does his best to disregard the blob, but as it crawls toward him, ignoring it is no longer an option. Bob throws a wrench at the parasite and attempts to leave the facility, but the intercom does not let him leave, stating that his shift ends at 5 p.m.
Your shift ends at 5 p.m.
The parasite then launches itself at Bob and inserts a stinger on the back of Bob's neck, taking full control of his body. The parasite continues Bob's work, and it becomes clear that the company facilitated this attack and was part of the new Rhizomech system implemented by the company to make employees more efficient. So Bob's subconscious is taken to a place that looks very similar to the 2017 Get Out film's The Sunken Place. The Sunken Place was a place where the main character was put in a trance-like state when their body is going to be taken over by a host. So this animation did come out in 2013, but I just thought it was very interesting to compare these two films. In The Sunken Place, Bob bears witness to hallucinations, and one being the parasite killing his son. However, Bob is able to break free of this trance-like state when he sees that the parasite is about to throw away a picture of his wife and kid. Bob kills the parasite by stabbing it with a screwdriver. But the true horror comes when Bob finally exits his facility, and he realizes that he wasn't the only one who was attacked. The intercom states that 3 employees avoided integration, and this included Bob. Then Bob is shot in the head, and so is the other employee, but an employee L44 is still attempting to escape. And what is really interesting is that if we do break down the word Rhizomech, rhizo comes from the Greek rhiza, meaning root, and mech being a pilotable robot. So the Rhizomech system essentially is parasites rooting themselves into a pilotable robot, which are the employees. Which leads us to the next episode that came out 3 years later, November 17th, 2041. InfoCorp installs the Rhizomech system. So this episode does take place the same day and the same time as episode 1. There are two characters in play, Carl and Mike, Mike being Carl's boss. And at this point, neither of them know what the Rhizomech system actually is. Carl decides to fix the pressure system anyway, and has his first encounter with the parasite. Carl squashes it, but it is still alive. And this is precisely when episode 1 and 2 link up chronologically, and Carl bears witness to Bob's unfortunate death.
5. G8 and L44 have avoided integration. Subject.
We also see L44, who attempted the escape in episode 1, is also shot and killed. So none of the employees who avoided being taken over by parasites survive. Carl, in a panic after witnessing the death of 2 employees, attempts to call the police, but the company has already anticipated this and blocked the phone lines to 911.
I am sorry, InfoCore lines are restricted from placing calls to Butt Chat 411. This attempted.
So instead, he calls his girlfriend, Laura, who works in the lab at Infotech. He tells Laura all about the shooting, and the two agree to meet at a secluded spot because the company does know where they live. Laura proceeds to make her way through the service tunnels, but that's when a parasite launches itself onto her. It injects its needle into the back of her neck, and Laura is made a parasite's host. Carl makes his way to the secluded spot, completely unaware that Laura was attacked, but then he runs into Mike, who has been made a host by a parasite. Carl, however, is able to free Mike from the parasite, but since it was attached to his head for so long, it affected his mental stability. When compared to Bob, who still had some sense after the parasite attack, because he took the parasite off almost right away, Mike is left extremely paranoid and keeps asking Carl if he sees him.
Can you see me? I'm Mike! Stay there. Just don't move.
But then Mike is able to make some sort of sense and tells Carl not to let it touch his skin, referring to the parasite.
Don't let it touch your skin.
But after a second of making sense, Mike begins to panic so much that Carl has to knock him out so the guards won't discover them. But the guards hear them anyway and make their way to the cell. And also a little detail that I thought was really cool is that if we do look back into the episode, we can see that the parasite that Carl failed to finish off is actually the same parasite that infects Mike. When Carl didn't come back from the repair, Mike went to go check up on him, and that's when Mike encountered the same parasite that attacked Carl. But this time Mike fell victim to the parasite and was made a host. So if Carl would have finished off the parasite, Mike never would have gotten infected. Carl steps out of the cell with the dead parasite on his head in order to fool the guards. Carl is able to fool the guards, but then is escorted into the inspection room. And a small detail is that you can tell that the guards are just as scared of the parasites as the employees. And what this means is that the company does not have full control over these parasites. And a whopping 4 years later, in 2021, we get the next installation of the operation. Episode 3. In episode 3, we are introduced to a new character, a woman working on inspecting the infected hosts and determining whether or not they are of value to keep. Because recalling back to episode 1, the point of the parasites was to increase employee efficiency and profits by 8%. And for the sake of this video, we will be calling this woman Katie, as it has not been stated what her actual name is yet in the series. If the infected hosts fail examination, they are subject to lethal injection. And Katie has already injected 200 or 300 people who have failed the tests. So I was telling my buddy, like this Wowman dude, he's pretty cool. Only cool people are subscribed. Oh, hey, are you subscribed to Wowman? Only the coolest of the cool are. Just thought I'd mention that. Alright, I'll see you. Enjoy. And here's when we discover what the parasites are actually called.
Rhizomect. Complete post-inspection protocol.
The parasites are identified as rhizomechs, and if a rhizomech passes a test, they are to place their hand on a scanner, and the scanner cuts off the tip of their finger. And I'm assuming the reason that they cut off the fingertips of the Rhizomechs is to distinguish the rogue Rhizomechs from the domesticated ones. And that's exactly when one of the Rhizomechs goes rogue after being subject to lethal injection and attacks Katie. After the attack, Katie realizes the small cut on her finger could potentially mean that she is infected as well. Carl steps up to be tested and he fails immediately because the first question is for the parasite to follow the light, but since Carl killed it, it can't. Carl is subjected to lethal injection, but the man in the mask buys him some time. The man in the mask, Trevor, who we later discovered to be, notices that Katie lets one of the Rhizomechs live even though it failed the question it was asked. And in a fit of rage, Trevor uses some kind of a distortion brainwave on Katie and then pins her on the ground. And that's when Carl takes this distraction as an opportunity to spill out the poison. Katie, still pinned on the ground, recommits herself to the Rhizomech initiative, and Trevor lets her go after demanding that he only wants the best. Then Steven, Katie's supervisor, tells Trevor that the success rate is only 5%, which means that only 5% of all infected individuals are surviving. And Trevor says it's fine even though this will inevitably tank the company's profits, which was the entire point of the Rhizomech initiative. And then shortly after, we can see security footage of Trevor murdering a man. Also, something really cool is that in the first episode we actually see who I believe to be Trevor before he was infected. Bob hands him the pencil that he dropped, but walks away immediately, like he's guilty because he knows what Bob's fate will be. After Trevor leaves the room, Steven gives Katie a monologue stating that the company wants to take control of all possible futures,
which requires rapid, intelligent adaptation as our company attempts to take control of all possible futures.
And he tells Katie that if she can't commit to this, then she shouldn't be here, and even threatens to kill her. And while this is going on, Carl is able to make his escape into the air vents, but a guard notices and Steven orders a facility search, and one of the guards even finds Steven hiding in the vents, but decides to spare him. Also, Carl just throws the parasite down an endless pit. The operator depicts a story about capitalism-filled greed by a man named Trevor. His company, InfoCorp, has killed countless innocent lives, including a man named Bob, who showed him kindness less than an hour before his death. According to Steven's log, if you add up all the people in his log, it adds up to 2,802 people, and if we take Steven's 4.64%, only 130 of those people are still alive and infected by parasites. The rest have been killed by lethal injection. And that's only what we saw from Steven's log, but the log continues and there are thousands of more who have suffered the same fate as Bob. Carl being the only survivor, his boss and friend Mike suffering from the post-infection damage to his mental state, and his girlfriend Laura has been made a host by a parasite, and Carl is left alone in the vents. The question is, will he survive another day? And that was The Operator explained. But seriously, what a dark animation series. I mean, we've covered tons of dark content before, but honestly, it does make you think, you know, with Jeff Bezos having so much money and developing somewhat of an evil laugh. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we end up like The Operator in, you know, a few years. But yes, hopefully I will see you very soon, and let's say next week, yeah? We can meet up then. Thank you so much. I owe you guys the world. Okay, let me stop being cheesy and corny. See you later. Bye.